Federation officer naive and premature. Let me see, Pavel muttered, crouching beside the general with the Grimmons. Down by a single gut shot. I'll try patch him up. My brother slipped a knapsack off of his shoulders, retrieving a portable first aid kit from inside. I turned my attention back to the battlefield as he began to suture the wound. A large group of Xanax soldiers were sheltering in the lobby of the luxury hotel down the road. Perhaps they thought taking refuge inside would save them from the flagship's wrath. I ordered a bomb dropped on the building and watched as moments later it imploded on itself, as easily as a house of cards. There was a grim certainty in my mind that the unit was buried, or rather, crushed by the rival. With their numbers dwindling, I expected a dozen or so remaining Xanax soldiers to surrender to the Terran Union at any moment. Sure enough, I saw a cluster of them walking backwards towards our front line, holding their rifles above their heads. The equivalent of a white flag back on Earth. Hold your fire, disarm and restrain them, nothing else, I spoke into my headset, shooting a pointed look at Pavel. I don't want the POWs harmed in any way. Do you understand me? I thought my brother was too absorbed in the general's injuries to hear, but he nodded in acknowledgement. We're two sides of the same coin, Mikhail. We do what needs to be done for the greater good, and we keep your hands clean. I sighed. The agency had its uses. It helped present a unified image of Earth to the galactic community, but in reality, our regional governments still squabbled over every menial policy. It swept diplomatic incidents under the rug, like the time the Hodal caught a handful of our spies copying sensitive documents. It provided the foundation of a military intelligence, keeping us posted on Federation military capabilities. Not that we were particularly impressed. Their Machiavellian attitude, however, left a lot to be desired. Keep telling yourself that, if that helps you sleep at night, I grumbled. How's the general? To my eyes, it wasn't apparent whether Chari was still breathing. The discoloration of his skin had turned him as pale as a corpse, and I feared that he might well be dead. Your friend, Pavel lingered on the word friend, toned sharp with distaste, has lost a lot of blood. He needs a transfusion and a miracle. I only have human blood here. I frowned. You're saying he's going to die? I'd say it's likely. You can try and get him to the flagship, pump him full of fluids, put him on a life support. But that's a shot in the dark, he replied. I sucked in a deep breath. Okay, all right. That's something. I'll summon the shuttle. I thought those were too risky to fly. The Federation could shoot them down. We just saved their rears. They better not. And anyways, I have to try. I doubt it'll make any difference. They're not built like us. His heart is too weak. That's the problem. What if we gave him the serum? It improves strength, recovery time, and almost importantly, cardiovascular function. You can't be serious. The serum was a layman's way of referring to genetic nanotechnology, which was used to enhance our soldiers through gene manipulation and regenerative therapy. While humans were hardier than most aliens to begin with, the nanites mending his tissue in real time were the reason Pavel was still standing, despite being shot twice. Genetic engineering was a state secret, since it was prohibited by galactic law. Honestly, the ban existed for sensible reasons. The Federation was concerned about long-term impacts on a species' gene pool. Humanity wasn't exactly a risk-averse species, though, and was happy enough to experiment in the field on the down low. Earth's affairs weren't closely monitored, at least while the Federation had considered it a pacifist planet. I'm dead serious. It could work, I said. Think about it logically for a second. He's not human, and it's never been tested on an alien species, Pavel replied. We have no idea how it'll affect him. Might even kill him. He's gonna die anyways. What have we got to lose? Let's say he lives. You think he won't figure out what we did? Then he'll spill the beans to the Federation. and we'll be right back on their shit list. Hell, what happens when he tells them that we assassinated Gazel? Kylon's not loyal to the Federation. We can trust him. You think that we can afford to take that sort of risk? We'd have to keep him on Earth permanently, to be sure. That won't be necessary. I think I can get him to defect of his own free will. Bubble's eyes shot up in surprise. The idea of a Terran Union recruiting a high-profile Federation officer to our ranks must have been sufficient temptation, because he began rummaging through his knapsack. He retrieved a small vial of clear liquid, filled a syringe, and injected the General without another word. I wasn't convinced that I could follow through with bringing Kylon to our side, with how honor-bound his species was. It was unclear whether he even considered abandoning his homeworld. But what was important now was saving his life. I paced back and forth as I radioed for a medevac. My gaze kept drifting back to the General, studying his form for the smallest sign of hope. There was no immediate change in the Jatari's condition, but I hoped the serum could give him a fighting chance. End of chapter. Kylon point of view. Clinical death. A human phrase that refers to the absence of respiration and a heartbeat. What any normal species would simply call death. The human doctor in the flagship medical wing told me I had no vital functions for a little over 2 minutes. This claim seemed impossible, given that I was very much alive. When I pressed him for how that was possible, he basically said they beat my corpse back to life. Though he dressed up the concept with scientific jargon. Chest compressions, I believe was the term. If that was the Terran idea of a joke, that wasn't very funny. That wound should have been by all known medical standards. Waking up in a surreal, all-white room, strung out on whatever drug cocktails there were in those IVs, my first thought had been that I was dead. I still wasn't fully convinced that wasn't the afterlife or some trick of the dying mind. What are you thinking about? It was Commander Rykov, seated at the bar stool next to me, dressed in civilian clothes. The flagship had stopped on Luna for maintenance following our little adventure, and I had obliged his offer to hit the local pub. You gonna stare a hole through the counter there? I tried to snap out of my thoughts, sighing, I'm thinking I need a drink. He chuckled, beckoning the bartender. That's the spirit, 2 shots of vodka. The barkeep nodded, and she shuffled off to fill his request. I could feel the few stares directed at me, and I realized with a bit of discomfort that I was the only non-human in the establishment. I glanced up at the television screens on the wall, trying to distract myself. The sound was muted, but I could see the closed captioning ticking across the picture. For Speaker Ula's resignation intensify, after internal memos disparaging various Federation representatives were leaked to the press. The source of this information is unclear, but she has, of course, accused the Terran Union. What exactly did she say? I asked, pointing at the screen. Well, she called the Herakar ambassador a gutless, footless, and possibly brainless, and then proceeded to say that she would hardly consider his species sentient. You can see how that might be offensive. Might be. I'd say her days as speaker are numbered. I gave the commander a pointed look, crossing my arms. I'm glad your brother's friend exposed her. Rykov stiffened, alarm flashing in his eyes. I don't know what you... I'll stop you right there. Yes, you do. Do you think I'm stupid? We all thought that the Hod-Al were just paranoid. But they were right when they said your diplomats were spies, weren't they? Between us, yes, but it's best not to talk about this. The agency doesn't have rules, and it has ears everywhere. The human had lowered his voice to just above a whisper. I'd never seen him look this uncomfortable, which unnerved me as well. We need to talk anyways. Pavel, wants me to ask you to keep quiet about how Kazel died. I told him that we could trust you. There was an implicit question in his words, asking whether that trust was justified. His tone was almost pleading, and his eyebrows were scrunched up with concern. I suspected that the warriors were my welfare rather than his own. If these spies would waltz into the middle of a standoff and murder a planetary ambassador in cold blood, I had no doubt that they would ensure my silence, one way or another. You can, my lips are sealed, I said. Next time, just give me the straight one. I don't appreciate this State Department bullshit. I know, General, and I'm sorry. I had to maintain his cover, but I never should have dragged you into the embassy mess to begin with. Wouldn't have missed it for the world. I wish I could have seen the look on their faces when the flagship showed up. The bartender returned, placing 2 tiny glasses of clear liquid in front of us. I squinted, inspecting the drink with a suspicious eye. This was a rather small serving for an alcoholic beverage, but perhaps humans were more susceptible to the alcohol's effects. After taking a single whiff of the drink, however, I recoiled in shock. It seemed that quite the opposite was true. Is this diluted at all? It smells like pure alcohol. You said you needed a drink. I figured you needed the good stuff, not just a beer. The commander downed the entire glass at a single gulp, and then grinned at me. Your turn. I hesitated, but swallowed the drink as the human did. The strength of the brew left me cough, my eyes streaming from its intensity. I clutched at my throat as I felt the vodka burning a trail down my gullet. The only thing that kept me from pitching out of my chair was Commander Rykov, who seemed unimpaired as he caught me. What is wrong with you people? I spluttered. It seemed that my struggle had called the attention of the bar's occupants, and many of them were having a laugh at my expense. Seeing the good-natured mirth in the commander's eyes, I couldn't help but crack a smile. I shook my head, trying to clear the fuzzy feeling from my mind. I'm pretty sure that would be considered a poison in the Federation. Rykov shrugged. The Federation is boring. One more, I'm good. Your loss. I pried the human's arms off of me, trying to rise to my feet. The lightheadedness wasn't exactly pleasant, so walking at all seemed like a good idea. I only staggered a few steps before lurching to the floor. Reaching for the counter was to no avail. All I achieved was cutting my hand against its edge. I winced at the stinging sensation and studied my palm. Pure shock rocketed through my veins as I saw the wound shrinking before my eyes, closing itself off as though by magic. The pain dulled into a gentle tingling, with the injury site feeling uncomfortably warm. That was not normal. Maybe it was the vodka? No, that wasn't how alcohol worked. If only I could think straight right now. I stared at Commander Rykov, hoping he had some explanation. There was no way I would have believed such a thing if I hadn't seen it with my own 3 eyes. The chill shot down my spine as I realized the human looked more alarmed than surprised. What exactly had they done to save my life? Something told me that I hadn't been given the whole truth. Again. What did you do? I spat. Look, it was my fault. Got shot. I had to fix it. I had to, he muttered. My anger was already giving way through confusion. I'm sorry, what? I don't blame you. I knew what I was getting into. Now I ask again, what did you do? He injected you with experimental nanotechnology. I took a few ragged breaths trying to process the information. Humans weaponizing nanos, then turning around and using them for medical purposes. The whole thing sounded both illegal and dangerous. But since I would have been dead without the intervention, did I really have the right to complain? It didn't seem to have done any harm. In fact, a sample of my blood could be quite useful to the Chitauri Confederacy. I suspected that the 2 remaining military species wanted to remain relevant. We needed to play catch-up to Terran technology. Or else, the Federation might turn to Earth as its sole protector. Reverse engineering would speed up the process by decades. Right now, the Terran Union was a friend, and I hoped that it would stay that way. But times and governments change, and being at the mercy of humanity's mood swings didn't seem like the best foreign policy decision. it was likely the Confederacy would try to step in as Earth's new trading partner. And after witnessing the implosion of the Zanuck Republic, I knew that we needed to take a more cautious approach, not get too entangled or dependent. General, please talk to me. The commander's voice was pleading, almost desperate. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I dusted myself off, rising on unsteady legs. I want to know what your thing is with nanites. He laughed, clapping me on the back. You're a piece of work. I smiled, but my mind was elsewhere. Perhaps it would be mutually beneficial if we brokered some sort of under-the-table deal. We could advance the humans' research, offer them a generous amount of credits, in exchange for arms and technology. Now that I realized how fond the Terrans were of subtlety, I figured that I just needed to get my government to join them in the shadows. I decided to broach the subject with the commander later, when I was sober, and we were in somewhere less public. With any luck, our friendship would lead to a long-lasting partnership between our species as equals. End of chapter. By MPOV. So why exactly was the refugee camp set up in a military base? I asked. Cole's face revealed nothing as he glanced up from his cards. Not everyone believes your little story, Byam. They want to keep an eye on you, make sure that you're not a threat. Wouldn't want you to try anything back on Earth. After the rescue mission on our home world, the humans moved us to a military outpost on a terraformed colony. From what I understood, its chief function was as a listening station, though it also could serve as a launch point for a preemptive strike if needed. They cropped up the tent city on the premises with relative ease and had ample food reserves to accommodate us, at least for a few weeks. Carl had requested a transfer to the refugee camp while he recovered from his injuries, which I was grateful for. I could tell a lot of the Terran soldiers didn't like us from their strained body language and curt replies. The three other humans at the table hadn't so much as looked at me throughout the game. I'd only been taught this poker game yesterday, but the rules were simple enough. Trying to read the humans with silence of deception was another story. Honestly, this game seemed designed for sociopaths, that their species derive pleasure from lying. With a frustrated sigh, I folded my hand. Obviously, you humans are much better at lying than me. Cole smirked, raking in my chips. You can't just let us bully you. Sometimes, you have to call. Can I look at your cards? Go for it, I grumbled. Why did you fold? The look he gave me seemed almost angry. Then I shrunk down in my seat. You have pocket aces. You know that's good, right? Yes, but I don't know what you had. It doesn't matter. That's literally the best starting hand. What did you have? Cole looked over his cards, revealing a 2 and a 7. I heard a few curses coming from the man next to me, and I was half tempted to drop some colorful language as well. Why would he make a large bet with such a weak hand? It defied all logic. Maybe I'm not just wired for this, I said. Hey, don't get me now. How about instead of worrying about lying, you look at it as a math game. Try to figure out the odds that someone has. A wailing aloft drowned out the end of Paul's explanation, stopping half to death. With its shrill pitch, it was unmissable. I covered my eyes, but it did little to muffle the sound. Fear began to creep up on me. Nothing that loud could mean anything good. I glanced at the humans, hoping for reassurance. Yet I got a distinct impression that they were waiting for orders. Incoming orbital raid, a low mechanical voice confirmed my concerns. All soldiers to your stations. This is not a drill. All games and the leisure were forgotten in an instant. The automated message hadn't even finished before my friend was tugging me by the arm, leading the way out of the lounge. I followed him in a daze. Our peaceful stay at the camp had lulled me into a false sense of security. Who would be foolish enough to attack the invincible Terran military? I was tempted to ask, but Cole seemed just as surprised as me. We exited the building with haste, and I took a peek at the pandemonium around us. Terran soldiers were nearly tripping over themselves, racing to their destinations, while the medical personnel were shuttling refugees off the field. A squadron of fighter jets was already lined up on the tarmac, preparing to take to the skies. The response to the attack was almost immediate. The humans could intercept the enemy before they ever reached the planet. I slowed my pace, trying to catch my breath. Where are we going? I'm taking you to the launch with the others. What about you? Well, they'll want me there too. I'm clear the market. Meantime, he's got my wrist, wordlessly telling me to keep up with him. But I'm getting on a ship, one way or another. I'm coming with you. Something about losing Cole to fend for himself didn't sit well with me. Despite the protest of my self-preservation instincts, I was just trying to convince myself that I wasn't out anymore. You need a gunner. I'm your guy. I don't know. But you sound sure. Alright, let's get a move on it. He veered towards the nearest hangar. Strides brisk, confident. If anyone stops us, let me do the talking. A few shocked looks were thrown in my direction as we entered the hangar, which I ignored. The structure was packed full of spacecraft, which all looked like pristine and well-maintained. Most of them had slim, angular designs, indicating that they were built for speed. A few large craft were present, which were likely the heavy hitters. There was nothing of the flagship caliber in stock, but it was still a sizable armada. Cole steered us towards the skirmisher. He helped me into the back seat before climbing behind the steering column. It was a much cozier fit than the craft we flew before. As I fastened my safety harness, I heard the humans switch on the comms relay, and a transmission crackled over the speakers. Pick up, damn it! What in God's name are you doing? An angry male voice asked. Cole cleared his throat. We're gonna kill some alien bastards, sir. You're not going with that thing in tow, came the reply. My friend's expression. That thing has a name. Bayham flew honorably under Commander Rykov. Rykov is a bleeding heart, and everyone treats that guy like a damn folk hero. He is a hero, and more importantly, he's a good man. But that's beyond the point, sir. I trust Bayham with my life. What does the extra set of hands hurt? We have plenty of folks raring to go as is. The first squadron is confronting the enemy now. This will be over soon anyways. A female voice buzzed into our channel, which I assumed was the emergency frequency. Sir, we've lost contact with our fighters. What? There was a pause, and then a measured response. How many of them? All of them, she replied. The man was stunned into silence, which stretched on for several seconds. Blondie, you still there? Cole frowned, but didn't correct his name. Still here, sir. You're cleared to take off. Get that bird off the ground before I change my mind. Yes, sir. I shifted in my seat as our craft rolled out of the hangar, boring into the tail end of the queue. If none of the ships sent out with the first wave returned, what did that mean for us? Were they dead? Would we be dead soon? I didn't think there was any army in the galaxy cluster that could trade blows with the humans, let alone annihilate the entire squadron. The thought crossed my mind that it was the AI. Perhaps it had learned from its defeats, and after sufficient study, it was able to replicate or negate Terran technology. That would also explain why a little-known outpost in the Fringe system had been attacked. It was here to prove that no escape was possible, or in its words, to reclaim its resources. I tried to shake the idea, but the more I considered it, the more I was certain it was true. My nerves were replaced by cold resolve. After tasting freedom, if only for a few days, I couldn't go back to life in chains. Death would be preferable. End of chapter. Chapter 19. Bayham Point of View. The Terran military had scrambled several hundred fighters into the upper orbit. which ran out in a defensive alignment. Our communications began to malfunction while we were ascending through the atmosphere, which explained the silence of the initial squadron. There would be no patching into ground headquarters. It was only us and them. I finally knew what it was like to be on the other side of our invasions. It only took one look at the enemy forces to recognize our craft, the same ones I had piloted for years. They seemed to be swarming the planet from all sides, like insects descending on a fresh carcass. Something had clearly changed since our last encounter. The Terran fleet was spewing missiles with relentless fury, but our opponents swatted them away with ease. The one's omnipotent nanite weapons were disabled with pulses, while anti-matter